Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Wanted to get on today. I've got some links up that I've been going through, and of course, I'm doing some more follow-up research. And wanted to put this out real quick. I know it's going to be a lot of links, but like always, I post all the links so that my fellow researchers can continue on with the research and help develop it further. And so today I'm going to go through things really quick, but hopefully what I go through will help put a sense of what's actually going on here for people. And before we get started with the links, I want to pull up a couple pictures. And let's see here. Okay. So what I've got, if people are familiar with my videos in the past, you know I was pulled over for supposedly traveling without plates and went to court, trial and all that. And after I went to trial, did my sentence and everything, in my research, I got a full financial index on all of the cases that they have listed at the local courthouse. Now, on this full financial index, they've got it listed as last/firm. Rather than the last name, they used the firm name, which is the first four letters of the last name. And I've been dogging them about this, and today I found it. I found it in the IRS definitions and everything. And so we'll see that. And so to get started, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Like I said, some of you guys might be familiar with this. But this is the full financial index from the local courthouse, County, Blackhawk. H.K. Knudsen, or H. Knudsen, was the user ID. That was the clerk that looked it up, Blackhawk County. Financial at 2:10 p.m. on the 19th, or on June 13th of 2019. And it says, last/firm. And then down below you see obligor. And you notice the style. On last, it's got parentheses around the capital L. And on obligor, it's got parentheses around the capital O. And that is supposedly the obligor number. But what happens is that is, in fact, the same set of numbers as the Social Security number, but it is styled without the two hyphens. So it's only 9 characters as opposed to the 11 characters of a styled Social Security number. Okay? And so what they did, well, as you can see, it's last name first, which is a military style. The military is the obligor. Okay? And what they've done is they used a firm name because that is not the last name. It is not a last name. So they substituted the last name with a firm name. I want people to know I have never once given a firm name. Had I known this, I would have made the distinction a long time ago. Hey, I'm not a firm as an outside salesman for a corporate entity. See, the United States is a corporate entity, and as residents, we're considered as outside salesmen making firm offers as federal, state, or municipal officials or agents in contract form. 4, the court registry investment system, because we are considered the ones making the firm offers investing for the corporate entity. Okay? Under this, you'll see they also have a date of birth, not a birth date, but a date of birth, 2 distinct different things, and then they put SSN. Now, I don't know if they're trying to say that's a Social Security number or a Selective Service number or a Secret Service number or what, but I know it is not the Social Security number, because the Social Security number is styled with 2 hyphens, making it an 11-character identification. Data elements, data set. It is an 11-character data set for identification purposes. Now, they have a PIN, which is a producer identification number, I believe. I am not sure. I believe it stands for producer identification number, the one that produced the information, the data elements. Driver's license, of course, is your, again, a 9-digit character set by its own style. And you'll notice everything on here is a summary. There is no declaratory judgments. All of them are summaries. Every last one of them. Okay? Now let's go to the next one. And this one here, this is what we're talking about right here. BRCHG stands, is an acronym for Birth Record Change. And we are talking about NE or NM-control, name control of the primary name, continuation of primary name, sort name, care of name, foreign street. It's all done through the name and address. Okay? But again, under 19 CFR 149.3, we are allowed, as ship-to-party end user third-party beneficiaries, we are allowed to use a ship-to-party number in lieu of the name and address, a widely recognized commercially used number. Commercially used number. And this is a document that they use with their own. And notice, Form 56, change individual, effective date. So that's what we're doing. We're sending a Form 56 to change the individual control of the name. This is a control record. Firm offer executive. LLC, commercial driver. New EIN. When you get a new EIN, you are a tax offer executive. Okay? So let's start going through this. Like I said, I've got a lot of windows up here. You can see we're going to start right here. Direct deposit. Because as soon as Mom went to the hospital, she made a direct deposit of data elements. And you can set up or change your direct deposit of benefit payment. This is Social Security. And we're reporting deposits and Treasury check issues for payment of public debt redemptions. Okay, this chapter prescribes procedures to be followed by Federal Reserve banks and branches for reporting deposits and Treasury check issues for the redemption and payment of public debt. Now, what I want you to know is Federal Reserve banks and branches for reporting. Who are they reporting to? They've got to report to the Department of Defense. That's who they are in contract with for the birth registration, which is the original issue of all military script under that name, and then associated with a number for control. The provision of 12 U.S.C. 391 authorizes the Secretary of Treasury to use Federal Reserve banks as depositories and fiscal agents. The Treasury uses Federal Reserve banks as depositories and fiscal agents of the United States. Memorandum 144 from the Commissioner of Public Debt. We are talking about the Military Board of Commissions, Civilian Board of Commissions, Postal Regulatory Commission. They regulate the Commissioner of the Public Debt. Dated March 20th, 1923, authorized Federal Reserve banks on request to issue Treasury checks and making payments on account of public debt redemptions. On request to issue Treasury checks and making payments on account of public debt redemptions. That account belongs to the United States, and this public debt thing, Commissioners of Public Debt, authorizes Federal Reserve banks to request to issue Treasury checks and making payments. It also authorizes the proper individuals to make requests to issue Treasury checks and making payments on account of public debt redemptions through the name control change. Birth record change. Pay attention, people. Public debt redemptions that are paid by charging Treasury's general account are normally received from commercial banking institutions, but may also be presented directly to the Federal Reserve Bank by the holder. So you don't have to be a commercial banking institution to present a payment for redemption to the Federal Reserve Board as a holder. That birth certificate it can be issued for redemption, placing the face value on it, turning it over for a redemption, stating your terms and conditions for full acquittance and discharge in redemption. When it is not possible to make a payment by crediting a reserve or correspondent bank account. You notice I got a bunch of Investopedia contacts up here, or things out here too. We got a national currency, and what is a reserve currency? They are two different things, folks. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. We're talking about what do I need to know about requesting a hearing before an administrative law judge. This is the guy everybody goes before when you go to court and invest in that court registry investment system. You're going in front of a administrative law judge. And this is where we can make the correction right there. Before we even enter into them courts, we can make a correction that there is no actual control by the administration of the name because it is not indentured properly. Therefore, the only one that can control it is the one that it was assigned to, and he is not organized to established and organized himself to be a firm or an outside salesman of the United States. He does not have an oath to properly reside in one of the foreign countries known as the states. Because, in fact, he was not born in the United States at all. The next one, what is an RRB number? The Railroad Board identifies its employees and retirees with claim numbers that consist of letters, prefixes, followed by either 6 or 9 numeric digits. Now, people are wondering, why are we talking about Railroad Board and the letters and prefixes of their system? It's because it's the claim number that uniquely identifies a medical beneficiary, and this is from Health and Human Services. The claim number that uniquely identifies a medical beneficiary. So when we give that number, it's known as we gave it as a medical beneficiary. not as a firm trustee. Unless you had the intent of operating as a firm trustee, it should never have been lodged in their lodge system, their military lodge system, their defense logistics as a trustee. Never. Never should have been done. That was the false entry, the false declaration. There was no proper declaration on entry into the record. The claim number that uniquely identifies a Medicare beneficiary and an EDB record, it is composed of two parts: a 9-position account number, Benny claim account number, and a 1 or 2 position beneficial identification code, Benny ident code, or BIC. The account number is a social security number or a railroad board number that was converted. They tell you it was converted to CMS internal RRB format. CMS, Centers for Medicare, Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services. So Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services converted the Social Security number or the RRB number to an RRB format internally. Okay? There was a conversion. Know it so you can explain it, so you can let them know you are not incompetent of the truth. The person is incompetent of the facts, because the person does not qualify for that conversion, because he cannot hold a place of public trust and place a public liability on the beneficiary record. Cannot do it. Unlawful conversion. So let's go on to the next one. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And it tells you, EDB, electronic database. Electronic database. Office of Informational Services. Office of Informational Services. Information of contract. Offer and acceptance. Information of contract. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. The Enrollment Database, EDB, is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services database of record for Medicare beneficiary enrollment information. We do not enroll as trustees. It is a misplacement, a misdescription, because we operate in similar capacity by signing documents when we're not required to. As a beneficiary is not required to do anything except the asset, which is the benefit. It is the authoritative source for Medicare beneficiary information, entitlement, etc. The EDB has information on all Medicare beneficiaries, including Social Security, retirement, and disability insurance beneficiaries, which is what the SS5 applies as. End-stage renal disease beneficiaries and railroad retirement board beneficiaries. Okay? So there's your conversion and how it's done. They're converting the Medicare beneficiary, whether it be a Social Security number or a railroad retirement board number. It is a conversion to a CMS RRB database format. What is default enrollment? Default enrollment is an enrollment process that allows a Medicare Advantage. This is important in 1, 2, and 3, the order of things. We are listed as a Medicare qualified government employee when we fill out the SS5. However, because it's only being applied as a beneficiary when we go out and get a job as a wage earner, it's only applied as a Medicaid, because we haven't actually become eligible for Medicare. Medicare is different than Medicaid. Medicare is for federal government employees, federal, state, or municipal employees, Organization following approval by state and CMS. So now we have a birth registration agreement from the Department of Defense with an official of the state, and then the official of the state has an agreement with Centers for Medicare and Medicaid to enroll unless the member chooses otherwise. Mom enrolled us. We did not have the opportunity to choose otherwise, because by the time we were 18, we were convinced that we had to have a Social Security number in order to get a job, in order to get a driver's license, in order to get a continued education, in order to open a bank account, in order to open our own business. Everything we do in life, we were told we had to have that Social Security number, when that is false. A member of an affiliated Medicaid managed care organization, MCO, and into its Medicare dual eligible special needs plan. When that member becomes newly eligible, he may be enrolled and already operating in Medicaid, but he is not eligible for Medicare because he hasn't qualified through oath and other accomplishments needing to be fulfilled. For Medicare, this process is only permissible in circumstances where the member remains enrolled with Medicaid MCO upon Medicare eligibility, telling us again that you have to have that dual eligible special needs plan. Okay? The only default enrollment effective date possible is the date an individual is initially eligible for Medicare Advantage. Both part, i.e., let me see, has both Medicare Part A and B for the first time. See, when you've got Medicaid, you've only got one. Part A. You're not eligible for Part B yet because you haven't qualified the employment status. You haven't graded properly. You haven't been rated properly. You haven't reached that grade. Understanding CMS data. An overview of EDB, MMA, buy-in. See, you're buying in. You're considered an investor with that Social Security number and buying in to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services so that they can convert the number and assign you as a trustee. You don't fill that SS5 out until you're 18 years old. You're now age of majority, and this is a presumption set on the record. You are now an outside salesman making firm offers by use of a name and address rather than just the number, in lieu of the name and address. What numinate file has the National Archives received? Remember, that's a numerical identification. So it will go into the National Archives. If you are not a national, if you are not, in fact, a United States citizen, a national, in those United States National Archives, then you don't belong in that record. None of these do. 3 different types are the death record, application record entries, and claim record entries. There says nothing about the birth registration. The record pertains to death records. An application record is the SS5. And every time you operate as a firm, you're making a claim on that record. You're making a false claim as a trustee that you were able to conduct a firm offer and then proving that you don't make that firm or can't complete that firm offer. This is still just a presumption and it's being used against you. I agree. The next one is Postgres SQL. Let's do this. Also known as Postgres, is a free open source relational database management system emphasizing extensibility and SQL compliance. SQL, I forgot what it stands for, but it's pertinent to the language of computer programming. server compliance. Compliance means adhering to a rule such as a policy, standard, specification, or law. So SQL compliance means adhering to rules laid for SQL. SQL is a domain-specific language. Structured query language. Their political language in their electronic database is a structured query language. And it's a relational database. It's not a factual database. It's a relational database. This is in the IRC 2.4.9.7. Command codes. IN, individual change. Internal revenue change. Beneficiary name change. Birth record change. Use the command codes INCHG, IRCHG, BNCHG, or BRCHG to enter an entity change to an account on the TIF. Format and command code are generated by CCE and REQ. Again, it's a electronic database using that query. Selected query languages. It's a political language. Military script. Military language. The results are pending transactions to the TIF and output transactions to the BMF, business master file, IMF, individual master file, and employee personnel master file, as applicable, or an update to entity data on an IMF or NMF account. SQL compliance, we already went over that. State buy-in data exchange processes. See, you're involved in a buy-in in data exchange process. It's exactly what you're doing. You're operating in a similar capacity, so that's the assumption that you place on the record for them to presume, and then you turn around and reassume it by believing them when they tell you that you don't have any jurisdiction or that they have jurisdiction. You operate as a outside salesman, as a firm making firm offers for the corporation, and they as a corporation are telling you you have no jurisdiction, that they do have personal jurisdiction because you entered into a conversion. It is the language. It is the language. The authority can only be had by credence, and that is certain, and only comes from our Father which art in heaven, and it does have to do with language. We are told, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Therefore, our language should be more specific and verbal, physical. I didn't have any luck. Chief information, we are talking about the information. And we're talking about the Chief Information Officer from the U.S. Department of Defense. Because that birth registration was in formation of a contract. We are talking about Section 508. Like I said in my previous videos with PayPal, I am under, it is recognized under 26 CFR 1.508-1. A private foundation is presumed. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, as amended, 29 U.S.C. 794D requires that when federal agencies develop, procure, maintain, or use information and communication technology, federal employees with disabilities have access to and use of information and data that is comparable to the access and use by federal employees who are not individuals with disabilities. This also goes to individuals who are not federal employees because they have a disability of not being a federal employee. That is a disability. It's a legal disability. It's a language disability. Unless an undue burden would be imposed on the agency, it would not be an undue burden for the agency to fulfill its objective to protect. Section 508 also requires that individuals with disabilities who are members of the public seeking information or services from a federal agency have access to and use of information and data that is comparable to that provided to the public who are not individuals with disabilities unless an undue burden would be imposed on the agency. Just like I said, whether you're a federal employee or not, you have the same access, the same comparable access to that data. 29 U.S. Code 794. Non-discrimination under federal grants and programs. This is that 794 they were just talking about right here. Okay, so let's go down to D. Standards used in determining violation of section. The standards used to determine whether this section has been violated in a complaint alleging employment discrimination under this section shall be the standards applied under Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act, 1990, 42 U.S.C. 111, and provisions of sections 501 through 504 and 510 of the Americans with Disabilities Act 1990, which is 42 U.S.C. 12201 to 12204 and 12210. Okay. And what we're talking about is participation in the Interstate Identification Index system. Like I said, that's a financial index. And they have responsibility for accuracy, completeness, currency, and integrity because it's an integral internal system. And they have sanctions for non-compliance. That non-compliance comes from variances. Variances from categorical pretreatment standards for fundamentally different factors. In a spell of illness, one is removed from wildlife as an animal and entered into a civilian life as a person. Okay? That's the discrimination. You are not categorically classified properly for protection. Instructions for designation of beneficiary. Order of precedence. This is next of kin. A corporate entity cannot claim copyright or patent, period, of the name. They can only claim ownership of the files for which they use the enumerations that contain that information. That's it. Your application was done as a designation as a beneficiary by your intent. You didn't know that you were entering into an agreement with the Centers for Medical and Medicare Medicaid and Medicare Services for a conversion to a different data set. No one knew this. Okay? Purpose of designating a beneficiary. A designation of beneficiary for lump sum benefit purposes only and does not affect the right of any person who qualifies to receive survivor annuity benefits. Such benefits are payable either by operations of law or as a result of an election made by a retiring participant. You have to retire from the system and make an election to designate a beneficiary to transfer all the credits that were errantly entered into their record. That's the change. And we do it through a signature card. OMB number 1405-0105. We do not have to use this form. We merely point out the Privacy Act of 1974 is amended, as I pointed out several times, 5 U.S.C. 552A as opposed to 5 U.S.C. 552. 552 is public records and opinions and all of that. 552A is individual records. So the public records is the corporation, and 552 is the individuals making out there making firm offers without knowing it. I went through and I found IRS entity or IRS definition sections here, and for entity under this particular section, and I'll post them all so you can find them. That portion of the master file record. So that portion of the master file record which identifies the taxpayer. Okay, so the entity in this sense is a portion of the record. It remains in the record and it identifies the taxpayer. Okay, that record identifies a taxpayer. It contains a name, address, Social Security or employer identification number. Employer identification number. That's the obligor number. If they're considering you a taxpayer, they're using the employer identification number, which is the firm number. The firm is the employer. Employment code, if applicable. Name control. 4 characters from the taxpayer's last name. Location codes, filing requirement codes, fiscal year, month, date of establishment, beginning of liability for all returns. Beginning of liability is just like beginning of eligibility. If you do not qualify, then you're not eligible. So if you didn't qualify, then you can't be liable. Everything they've held you liable for is returnable. Period. This one here, that you'll notice was number 30. And that is under 3.13.2, BMF account numbers. This one here is number 51. And it too says entity, and it says the portion of the master file. That portion of the master file record, which identifies the taxpayer. The portion of the master file record, notice they did not capitalize it here. Okay? Language is specific. The law is specific. Record identifying the taxpayer. It contains the taxpayer's name, address, Social Security number, or EIN. This one here, it says it contains the name, address, Social Security or employer identification number. This one here, it says it contains the taxpayer's name, address, Social Security or EIN, employment code. Name control, first 4 characters from the taxpayer's name. First 4 characters from the taxpayer's name. Okay? Taxpayer advocate services. Taxpayer advocate case procedures. Definition of terms, use of abbreviations. Look at all those terms and all those abbreviations. This here, SERP and SPDR, those are the 2 searches that we do. Those are the two sites we go. I can't remember exactly what they stand for, but you can punch them in and find the acronyms. This is a search program. Both of them are search programs for this information online. Effect on other documents. Changed abbreviations, changed definitions, da-da-da-da. Automated collection system. They don't tell you that they're collecting data elements. Everybody seems to think that IRS collects money in taxes. The taxes they collect are the gifts that you give them in the form of data elements. A formal written memorandum of a recommended change that is presented to an operating division after completion of an administrative advocacy project. Everything is supposed to be a form in written form, and it's supposed to be a memorial. This is how we correct our records through the advocacy proposal. We let them know in written form that there's a memorial already in place. Alpha function indicator, that name control, birth change, and the name control. They speak about it, folks. They tell you, apology rendered. And like again, like I said, cross-functional. Groups or teams composed of employees from multiple functions or units. The name control units, whether it's a corporation, a franchise, an employee, an employer, a resident, an official, an agent, they're units. Do you feel like a unit now? Centralized reconsideration unit. Things need to be reconsidered, folks. Let's get on to the next one because I'm going to finish up here. I don't want to make it too long. BMF entity unpostable correction procedures. Unpostable because they're private, and that is the problem. That is the need for the correction, is because we have private matters that need to be tended to because everybody's been placing public liabilities on the private individual, and therefore they are unpostable, and we need to correct them. Okay, very simple. Organizational changes in regards to wage and investment. Like I said, just like when you go to court, you're making an investment. When you get a job, you're making an investment. It's an investment. And through the Wage and Investment Government Accountability Office, GAO, they're telling you right there, Wage and Investment Government Accountability Office is the same thing as the Government Accountability Office. And it's for wages and investment. That's the government accountability. Wages and investments. Wages of war and investments in that. And Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, post-audit process. Remember, you remember my PayPal videos here recently, I spoke about this. The Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, it's in my international notice. What I want people to pay attention to is wage and investment research and analysis procedural guidelines, telling you it is research. Telling you it is research, and the voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely necessary, according to the first point made in the 10 points handed down in the verdict of the Nuremberg Code. I do not have to partake in your military experiment in researching medical practicing, commercial practicing, legal practicing, any kind of other scientific practicing, commercial, any practices. I'm not here to destroy your law. I'm here to fulfill the law. I am perfecting it, not practicing it. The last one, Form 5500 Series, U.S. Department of Labor, Internal Revenue Service, and the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation jointly developed the Form 5500 Series so employee benefit plans could utilize the Form 5500 Series forms to satisfy annual reporting requirements under Title I and Title IV. Medicare services of ERISA and under the Internal Revenue Code. Which has zero authority. So anyway, like I said, you saw a lot of information there. I'm going to post all the links. And again, it's going to be part of my own redemption. I'm finding the truth. I'm learning how to do all of this stuff myself. And when I can put a package together to present to the Department of Defense, Department of State, and the Social Security Administration, along with Homeland Security, IRS, Commissioner, Social Security Commissioner, Secretary of Treasury, and Secretary of Commerce, and all those other people, I'll be putting it out and you'll be seeing it. Just like I posted the international notice on my website, I'll be posting a notice to the Department of Defense as well when I get ready to step up and do this. So think about this stuff, and remember, you've all been induced deceived into investing in their system through your labor because you were pre-treated with certain classifications, categorically misdescribed. And that's what Homeland Security does in the redress program, is it addresses the misdescriptions. That's why we go to Homeland Security for redress, because the address shouldn't have been used. It should have been routed directly to the Social Security Administration as a beneficiary, and they're liable on the account. So they send it back and say, hey, you can't place liability on this guy's account. He's not got the capacity to make firm offers, and you should be making that presumption. Unless he's giving the last name in 4 letters, all uppercase, and an obligor number which is Social Security number without the dashes, they don't have any authority to make that presumption. And if you don't know this and don't do that, and you're giving the name, address, and Social Security number, it's placing a duality on the record, and so they pick and choose. So think about this stuff. And remember, when you get that driver's license, that's what you're doing. You're converting that for Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services for the Safety Act under the Interstate Highway and Transportation Safety Act. It's all about insurance, folks, and I've been telling you that. It's a false insurance. It does not belong to you. You are not required to sign up for it, and you have the ability to use the same documenting instrumentation for forgiveness if you ever get in an accident and cause loss of life or injury to harm and property, or injury to person and property. You still have the ability to grant that forgiveness, that redemption, by using the birth certificate and fulfilling the insurance payment itself through your own redemption. Just by stating the process and how it's supposed to work. So again, think about this stuff, people. And again, remember, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing that. Anybody that's watching that normally attends the Tuesday and Thursday Zoom meetings, we'll hope to see you there. In the meantime, God bless and have a great day. I'll post those links as soon as I can. And remember, folks, please hit that PayPal button and send some love. I can always use it. I'm doing everything on Fringe. So God bless and have a good day.